Hello, everyone, and welcome to Michelle Solorzano's opening artist in resident talk. I'm Nathan Stanfield. I'm the studio manager at the American Museum of Ceramic Art in Southern California. AMOCA champions the art, history, creation, and technology of ceramics through exhibitions, collections, outreach, and studio programming. Today's artist talk focuses on the work of Michelle Solorzano, who arrived in August for a long-term residency in the AMOCA Ceramic Studio. AMOCA's Artist in Resident program, established in 2012, is one of the few long-term fellowship opportunities for ceramic artists on the West Coast. Our residency program, which has provided artists an opportunity to produce or develop a new body of work, is funded through the generous support from the Julianne and David Armstrong, Laguna Clay Company, and the Wingate Foundation. The next call for residency applications begins in early January of 2025. Today, Michelle will be sharing some of the work from her past before arriving, her plans for her time as an artist in resident at AMOCA. Now I'm excited to tell you a little bit about Michelle before we get started. Michelle Solorzano is a figurative ceramic sculptor whose work explores themes of immigration, identity, and culture, all woven into a narrative shaped by her personal experiences. She holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts in painting and ceramics from the State University of New York at Potsdam, and recently completed her Master's of Fine Arts in ceramics at Indiana University. Originally from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, Michelle relocated to New York with her family when she was 15. Her artwork serves as a testament to the diverse tapestry of Dominican heritage, blending Taino, African, and Spanish influences. Solorzano will be in residence at AMOCA from this past August of 2024 to July of 2025. Before Michelle starts her presentation, I want to remind everybody this talk is being recorded, and there's going to be an opportunity for Q&A after the presentation. So I will now turn the presentation over to Michelle.
Thank you, Nathan. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so hello, everyone. I want to start by thanking AMOCA for supporting emerging artists like me with the space, the time, and the materials to create. I also want to thank Laguna for generously providing materials for the artists in residence. As Nathan said, my name is Michelle Solorzano. I create mixed media sculptures, with clay being the primary medium. I will cover my background, education, my influences, my process of construction, and some of my recent work, as well as my plans here at AMOCA. I am originally from the Dominican Republic and moved to the US at the age of 14 years old. A lot of my work is centered on my cultural identity and immigration. This is a picture of me, my mom, and my sister. I received my BFA from SUNY Potsdam with a focus on ceramics and painting. The school is located in upstate New York. It's near the Adirondacks. There's also on the right side a picture of some of my students. So after I graduated with my BFA, I worked as an elementary art teacher in New York City for almost 2 years. And teaching has been a very important part of my trajectory as a maker. It influences the way that I approach problems in my own work. I feel like it grounds me and also makes me a better artist. This is a picture of some of my paintings that I had for my BFA show. They were 5'4". And these paintings were in conversation with some figurative sculptures as well. I'm interested in emotions perceived through color and how colors interact with each other. Here is a picture of the one of those sculptures in conversation with the paintings. This is a watercolor that I worked on during the pandemic, a time where I felt uncertain. Um, and I always find creating self-portraiture to be the best way to express myself and cope with whatever I'm going through. So after finishing my BFA and teaching elementary art, I moved to Indiana in 2021 to start my Master's of Fine Arts. This was a 3-year program, and I graduated this past May. And the picture to the right were some of the first sketches that I made during my time in Bloomington. Um, and this was how one of those sketches translated into a sculpture. So during this time, I was thinking about growing up with the Catholic guilt. I feel like even if you're no longer practicing the religion, it's something that stays with you. The anxiety is caused by feeling shame. So that's the drawing and the piece. I wanted to include this picture here also, just to remind us all that clay always keeps us humble, and not everything that we work on makes it to the final stage. This was one of the first pieces I worked on in grad school, and it collapsed on me. So half of this piece fell on top of me, and I decided not to keep it, but I learned a lot from constructing it. My work is a series of autobiographical narratives put together like a puzzle from a set of chosen symbols. And in these pictures show a lot of those symbols that I often use, as well as a picture of my mom when she was a child and my grandma. I've always felt a very special connection to my grandmother, even though I never met her because she passed before I was born. But she was a clothes designer, and she also made clothes, and this was her full-time job. So I've always felt a special connection with her. Um, and then pictured here is a truck full of plantains, which you see often in the island. The hibiscus flower, faceless dolls. So the faceless dolls are often acquired by tourists as a souvenir. And the faceless doll is supposed to be a representation of the modern woman in um, in contemporary society. I also have the coralillo flowers, which are everywhere in the island. They grow on these bushes in little packs, and coconut stands. I'm also inspired by the landscape, the tropical landscape, and just different fruit and vegetable stands that I often see. These were pictures that I took last summer when I visited the Dominican Republic. My recent work is strongly influenced by the Dominican Carnival. Carnival is a celebration that takes place in February, and it lasts in some areas until the beginning of March. Every Sunday during February, people from all different social classes come out into the streets in masquerade groups from small towns and cities all over the country, and they showcase different characters. Like here, the first character is the Roba la Gallina, which is a man dressed as a woman. And it was used kind of like as a punishment for someone, like as the story says, how this character was developed. It was a man that stole something, and as a punishment, he was supposed to dress as a woman with voluptuous body. And then the second one is one of the iterations of the devil character of the carnival. Which is a satirical representation of the devil, since the Dominican Republic is a very Catholic country. So a lot of these characters, dances, and music have a combination of religious, ceremonial, and pagan value. The period of the celebration is related in some areas to the commemoration of Easter, Also the Dominican Independence, which is celebrated on February 27th, and the beginning of spring. This is a picture of me and my sister at the Dominican Carnival, maybe around 2010. um, and I've always been enamored by the maximalist adornment of all of these characters and the costumes. I am interested in questioning the power dynamics between an iconic character like the devil and the spectator. In the picture to the right, the devil is holding two whips. One of them is made of rope, and it creates a loud sound when hit against the gravel. And this rope is often fairly long, like 8 feet long. Um, and the other one looks like a balloon, and it is traditionally made from a cow bladder. Um, so these are used to whip the spectators' bottoms during the parade. And this is done in a playful manner. And there are different beliefs as to why this is done. Some people think that this is a way to liberate people who have sinned. And then there's also people that believe that this was done mainly to um, keep control of the crowds during the parade, to make sure that the main area where the parade is happening is clear of the public. Okay, so I wanted to show a little bit of my process. I often start by sketching from memory, just to get the idea down on paper. And very rarely my initial idea becomes a final product without changes. I'm reworking ideas. I allow myself to experiment and adapt throughout the construction process and the surface decoration. So with the second picture, this is that piece titled American Dream. And this was at the Leather Heart stage. So at that stage, I usually would redraw the piece after I've made changes to the form, and so that I can plan how I want to decorate the surface of the piece, like what patterns I want to do and how colors would interact next to each other. I love working large. I love having this feeling of kind of fighting with the thing that I'm working with, that is almost as big as me, if not bigger, although I work in various scales also. Um, I like my work to take up space and become part of my environment. Therefore, I prefer to use slabs to build. I find slabs to be the fastest hand building technique. I can achieve more volume and height um, than with other techniques. But again, I use whatever technique needed for my vision. So whatever it might need to happen, whether that is using coils, incorporating other techniques. So all of my sculptures are hollow built. For this one, which was one of the more complex pieces I've done because it was a standing figure and it was life-sized, I worked on the entire piece up to the shoulders, and then I cut it in at the waist, so that when I added the head, it wouldn't become too top heavy, given that the figure's leaning forward, and that would have caused problems if I left it on. So I created this flange on the waist so that I can put it back on and attach it after firing. I often use a cold finish on my pieces, meaning paint. So I use a variety of paints, including spray painting, acrylics, and oil painting. Given the complexity of some of these forms, it's easier to achieve more precision when painting my pieces. Um, Another advantage is reassembling pieces that have been fired in multiples, because I can do so with epoxy and so on. This piece is titled Resisting and Assimilating. Immigration creates a distance between where we're born and where we're now, physically and metaphorically. This piece is inspired by a traditional pestle and mortar, which is used for grinding spices. And here is, of course, a metaphorical representation of resisting to assimilating to the American culture. My work is a personal exploration of my cultural identity, shaped by the complex interplay of colonization, immigration, and assimilation. I challenge preconceived notions and cultural ideals shaped by colonial influence, aiming to deconstruct these narratives and restore a more authentic understanding of the Dominican identity, which is a fusion of Taino, African, and Spanish influences. And the reason why I'm so interested in kind of relearning my own history is because when growing up in the Dominican Republic, I felt that a lot of what I learned in school about my own history was through the lens of colonized minds. So not everything is accurate, and not everything, and not the whole truth has been studied or revealed. So this is why I'm so interested in this. And this piece is a stacked sculpture. It's composed of 6 different parts that sit on top of each other or interlock on top of each other. This piece is titled La Cayena me comió la lengua, which translates to The Hibiscus ate my tongue. And with this piece, I was reflecting on the biggest challenge that I had when I became an immigrant, which was the language barrier. The hibiscus with this symbolic style coming out of the mouth is representing my frustration of being unable to communicate effectively. I view the creation of these sculptures as an internal struggle, a continuous effort to preserve my culture. This piece unfortunately broke into a lot of parts when I was shipping it to a show, so this piece no longer exists, but at least we have really good photos of it. Concepts of duality and biculturalism are central to my practice, reflecting on the constant feeling of between not feeling entirely American nor Dominican, but also embodying aspects of both. And this piece is titled Flexible Like a Palm Tree. I was thinking about how palm trees, I think of palm trees as a symbol um, for flexibility and because palm trees go through so much, like through storms and whatnot, and they move and back and forth with the wind, but they don't break. So I just feel like I see that as a symbol of resilience, I would say, which I think represents immigrants. This piece is titled On the Other Side, and here I'm again using symbols of the hibiscus flower and the plantains. I really enjoy making these abstract organic forms, which through my eyes represent land or an island, an idea of an abstract island. I've been asked before what that might be representing. And this piece was inspired by my experience of coming out as a queer person in a very traditional family. That was the inspiration. This piece is titled My Home is Your Home. And here I'm using I actually combined the 2 whips that I showed you previously, which were the rope and the balloon made of pig bladder. And with this piece, I was reflecting on the loss and the cultural shock of experience during immigration. It explores the contrast between the values that I had before. So the communal values of my home country, where people believe my home is your home, versus the individualistic kind of value of American society, where that kind of support is less common. And again, we have the plantain symbol here. Plantain is the staple food of the Dominican Republic and is an important part of our African heritage. So everywhere I go, I feel like I have the need to bring a plantain dish with me. So whenever there's a potluck or something like that, I try to bring that part of my culture with me. If you've never tried a plantain, you should, because they're delicious. This piece is titled Lechones al Poder, Lechones in Power. This was very challenging figuring out the inside structure of this piece, given that it has a metal pipe that goes all the way through all five masks, and it also has a center support in the middle figure. So the devil, which I often use in my work, is a representation of oppression, abusive power, and reenacts the treatment of the plantation owners towards enslaved people, as well as the lifestyle during the Trujillo dictatorship. And this piece in particular was inspired by the five primary industries that keep the Dominican economy afloat, which are the tourism, exportation of sugar, plantains, cacao, and coffee. And then this is the back side of that piece where I illustrated each of those things. Color is also a vital element in my work. Having a background as a painter, I'm always thinking about color when I'm making these sculptures. I use it to visually engage the viewer, so attract you with these bright colors, but also conceptually opening a window for more challenging topics that are less bright and colorful. I am actively redefining my aesthetics, challenging the influence of colonialism on our perception of fine art. I'm motivated to confront and deconstruct these historical biases. I'm hoping to broaden the boundaries of what is considered fine art. This piece is titled Abrazo, a hug. And in this piece, I have the mask that I often use, which is one of the most popular iterations of the devil, and this is my personal favorite. And this one is called the Lechon Pepinero. And this stylized mask combines the eyes and ears of a pig with the bill of a duck. I'm also drawing inspiration from aesthetics that are often described as naive, and this might include the utilization of symbolism reminiscent of Taino art. Here are some pictures of that piece again in the construction process and when I loaded it into the kiln. So I ended up cutting this piece into smaller pieces to get fired and then reassembling after being fired. So this is what that piece looked like as a final product. And I'm also combining different materials as well. Here I'm using the jute fabric, rope, and wood. There's metal in there too. In this sculpture, I'm reimagining this character, which is called Papelou. This character is traditionally a male, so I'm reimagining as a female figure, holding the vejiga, this balloon. And this balloon, like I said, is used in festivities to maintain order by playfully swatting those who misbehave or who have sinned. In this reinterpretation, I'm challenging conventional gender roles and questioning traditional notions of authority and control. This is also an in-progress shot of the next piece that I'm going to show you. And in the construction of this piece, I combined slab building with also coil building, because I often try to kind of problem solve with what seems to be the best solution. So in this case, for the legs especially, because they were on top of one another, constructing with coils made more sense to me. So I'm not loyal to one specific construction method. I use kind of whatever I need to use. And this is that piece as a final product is titled De Adentro Afuera, from the inside out. And in this piece, I'm drawing from the Taino symbology, especially the semi. This is a semi, the second picture. And the semi is a deity believed to possess supernatural powers. The semi that inspired this pattern in the surface of this work is actually a rare artifact reflecting the artistry and beliefs of my ancestors. And a lot of these artifacts have been tragically lost during the period of colonization. So I'm kind of wanting to reclaim my history and bring back these beautiful creations that there are very few left. Semis were also often in the possession of caciques, who were considered healers and leaders, and used them to legitimize their power. This piece, I used an unconventional surface, which was sand. So for the surface decoration, I painted the whole surface orange first, and then I applied a vinyl stencil all over the piece. And then I covered the piece with sand that I dyed. I dyed sand blue and then covered the piece with it. And this is a photograph of my thesis show with all of these pieces together, as well as the installation in the background. So Carnaval is referred to as the world upside down. And like I said earlier, instead of the church being in power, the devil is the one that takes central stage during the celebration. So Carnaval provides a platform for the people to confront and protest the arbitrary decisions and societal norms established by those in power. And my thesis show was titled Ephemeral Power. And this is a close-up of the wall installation that was in the background. It served as a backdrop for my sculptures. And some of the elements you see here are the plantain tree, which actually has a flower, and an iguana, a rocking chair, and water. And so what I'm doing right now, now I'm here at AMOCA. I've been here for about a month. And these are two of the pieces that I'm working on currently. I am continuing my research of the Dominican culture and aesthetics through my figurative sculptures. I'm also exploring new ways of portraying the same topics that I've been working with in the past, and coming up with new symbols and new imagery that's going to go on these pieces. I am also exploring how to do some fire surfaces. So having the opportunity to be here and the access to materials, I am going to be exploring more with fire surfaces instead of cold finishes like I have in the past. And that is the end of my presentation. Feel free to reach out. Here's my website, my Instagram, and email. Thank you so much for watching, and questions, right?
Cool. Yeah. So we'll drop those links in the chat as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. So we have some time now for questions. So please feel free to either type out your question in the chat and I can read it out, or use the little raised hand emoji and we can call. Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Michelle. All right. Chat. Let's see. All right, so we have one that's came through. So when you fire separately and reattach the ceramic parts together, what are you using and how are you rebuilding the piece? Thank you, Amber.
Yeah, so I was using epoxy. I use both epoxy and epoxy. So epoxy being the liquid version, and then epoxy sculpt, which is kind of like a putty that I use to filling any crevices. But usually it has to be placed in such a way that the piece won't move for 24 hours so that the epoxy can cure. So for instance, that standing figure, I had to epoxy back together in parts. So I didn't epoxy everything at once. I had to epoxy the lower legs first and have them upside down. Once that cured, then I can turn it upright again and epoxy the waist back on. So like it's a process.
Okay, so you're not so they're not like modular figures when you're so they're epoxy together.
Mhm.
Cool. Thank you, Amber. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for the question. For more of Michelle Solorzano's work, you can visit her website, michellesolorzano.com, which is going to be in the chat. And if you're in the neighborhood, come visit the museum and the ceramic studio in Pomona, California. You can learn more about AMOCA and our ceramic studio and our residency program by visiting our website, amoca.org. And just a reminder, a recording of this presentation will be available on our website in the coming weeks. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Michelle, and see you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, guys.